tonight, and also breaking tonight, a historic moment clashes with some deadly chaos in the Middle East today as the U.S. officially opened the embassy now in Jerusalem.
We welcome you officially and for the first time to the embassy of the United States.
Thank you, President Trump, for having the courage to keep your promises.
We stand together because we believe democracy is worth defending.
The United States will always be a great friend of Israel and a partner in the cause of freedom and peace.
A lot of positive celebration on that side, but at least 55 people are dead at this hour. The international ramifications already being felt. Turkey tonight has announced that they will pull their ambassadors out of Israel and out of the United States in response to this move. So this is the question. Is it the beginning of a power shift in the Middle East that could lead ultimately to peace? Or does it mark the end of the peace process and the beginning of more violence to come? Joining me now, Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president. Kellyanne, great to have you with us tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Martha.
What was earlier today, Raj Shah was speaking with the press. He said that he believes, in terms of this violence, that the responsibility rests squarely with Hamas. Is that the White House perspective on that?
Yes, we think these deaths are tragic, of course. Any loss of life is. And at the same time, Hamas bears responsibility for killing these individuals. Look, this president made good on the promise of 4 presidents. The previous 3 presidents before him all promised to do what this president did, which is to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, as Israelis do, and to move our U.S. embassy there. You know, President George W. Bush said as soon as he got into office, he would do that. It was not done. President Obama said that Israel must remain undivided and that Jerusalem will always be its capital. So in this way, this president is only recognizing reality. But I think it also, the violence and the loss of life, Martha, underscores that this is a very fraught process and that Hamas has been causing trouble in Gaza for a very long time.
It raises the obvious question, though, once that move has been made, and as you say, it has been promised by several U.S. presidents and now carried through by President Trump. But what happens now? You know, we know that Jared Kushner and others have worked on the peace process. Where is that peace process now? What's the next move?
Well, we continue to work on that peace process, obviously, with our greatest ally in the Middle East, the state of Israel. And we're very happy that a number of allies are joining with this president when he's taking such bold actions around the globe otherwise. Look at what's happening with North Korea. You look at the polls, the way the Democrats, by a 2-to-1 margin, approve or disapprove the president wanting to sit down with North Korea and have this summit. You see that women are much more favorable on this action. You see that independents are.
I understood, and I do want to ask you about North Korea, but I just want to stay back with Israel for just one moment, because France urged Israel to use restraint during the course of this process. So what is the United States' stance towards Israel about what we're watching happening at the border? Is the president also urging more restraint? Because tomorrow there could be an escalation as they remember and recognize the day that Israel became a state. So what's the White House telling Israel about their reaction and their response?
Well, the president and the United States remain very involved in the peace process. Secretary of State Pompeo has it right when he says Israel has a right to defend itself. This president also made clear on December 6th, when he announced that he would move the embassy to Jerusalem, Martha, that the borders are left to the people there, that the U.S. is not getting involved in that. But we recognize that sovereign nations should have borders and we want to recognize that their capital is where they say it is. But we're closely monitoring the violence and the loss of life as well.
I just want to play a soundbite from John Brennan and then from Mike Pompeo, the new Secretary of State, and get your thoughts on this, Kellyanne.
Kim Jong-un, who I despise because of the brutality that he has put upon the North Korean people. But unfortunately, I think he has been masterful in how he has manipulated perceptions and how he's manipulated and quite frankly, duped Mr. Trump.
I think former Director Brennan's remarks are silly on their face. We're going to enter into a set of discussions with 2 nations doing their best to achieve outcomes for their own people that are consistent with their objectives and goals.
Your thoughts on John Brennan's statement that the president was duped into this meeting with Kim Jong-un?
That's a very irresponsible, if not irrational, statement for several reasons. You see a number of people from across the aisle, and as I just remarked earlier, Martha, in the polls, Democrats, women, college-educated voters that were continually told don't support the president as much. They very much support taking this action with respect to North Korea. And if you look at the polling, people who are older, 50-plus and 55-plus, they certainly do, because they've lived through decades of war. They've grown up only knowing war between North Korea and South Korea. And I would say that Mr. Brennan and others who who served in the administration before ours should remember that old saying that politics stops at the water's edge. These are decidedly nonpartisan issues looking for bipartisan support. And I would hope that someone who was involved in the previous administration could at least see the prospect of opening up relations there and denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. North Korea has already, with the gift of this president's leadership, released those 3 Americans back here. And even then, people couldn't just applaud it and say, isn't that a wonderful day for those 3 men to be free? They had to make it partisan and political. And I think that's part of why the president's poll numbers are improving, Martha, because people are so tired of the reflexive invective and the inability and the irrationality of not being able to say today was a good day for America. Finally, on the point of North Korea, this president has made clear again and again that things are looking very promising now. The summit is set for June 12th. But at the same time, the president said he'll see what happens, that these conditions need to be met. But so far, we like the fact that they're suspending their tests, they're releasing Americans, and this president feels that we're at a very good place moving forward toward June 12th. I
want to get your thought on one last thing, and this is a Trump tweet from today on leakers. He said the so-called leaks coming out of the White House are a massive over-exaggeration put out by fake news media in order to make us look as bad as possible. With that being said, leakers are traitors and cowards, and we will find out who they are. Can you tell us about that process of trying to figure out who is leaking from the communications department and what's going to be done?
I won't tell you the process so much as to tell you that there are all kinds of leaks. Some leaks exist to hurt, I guess, colleagues. Some leaks exist because they disagree with the policies that are being put forth. But none of them are helpful. And I will tell you there's something else that's going on in this White House, but not as badly as it was at the beginning, where it's not so much leaking as using the media to shiv each other. And that was going on quite a bit at the beginning of this administration, and it's less so now. But I think the president is on solid ground here, that if you work at the pleasure of the president, as we all do here, and you have the privilege and the blessing of coming every work in this White House on behalf of the nation that we all love, then you ought to be competent, you ought to be loyal, and you ought to be able to reinforce the agenda that prevailed here. And so I can't go on more, but I had several discussions with the president on this very topic today.
Do you expect personnel changes as a result?
I do. Actually, yes, I do.
All right. Interesting. Kellyanne Conway, always good to see you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.